He spent 20 years running from his past, yet no matter how far he went, the ocean always whispered his name. Every morning, Elias walked to the same wooden pier, a satchel on his shoulder, his eyes searching the horizon like he was waiting for something or someone. The town had forgotten him long ago, but the sea never did. The waves carried stories, and his story was one of regret. "I'm sorry," he whispered one morning, his voice lost in the wind. No one answered, but deep down, he didn't expect anyone to. Years ago, Elias was a different man. He was young, full of fire, and in love with a woman named Clara. They dreamed of leaving the small coastal town, chasing a future that shimmered like sunlight on water. But fate has its own tide, and one night it pulled everything away. Rain poured, the lantern broke, and in one terrible instant, his choices took a life and shattered another. In the silence that followed, guilt became his shadow. He left the town, left Clara, left himself. The letter he wrote that night, one he never sent, became his anchor. 20 years passed. His hair turned gray, his face lined with salt and sorrow. Yet every dawn he walked to the pier as if forgiveness might rise with the sun. One morning, a boy appeared beside him, barefoot, curious, eyes bright as the sea. "Why do you come here every day?" the boy asked. Elias smiled faintly. "To listen." "To what?" "To the sea. It remembers everything." The boy laughed. "Then the sea must be sad." Elias chuckled, a sound he hadn't made in years. They sat together, throwing crumbs to the seagulls. Days turned to weeks, and the boy's laughter began to fill the empty spaces in Elias's soul. He found himself talking again, about ships, storms, and the beauty of second chances. For the first time in years, he felt alive. Then, one morning, she returned, Clara. Her hair longer, her eyes deeper, her face carrying the years between them. She stood at the edge of the pier, watching him. He froze. "You shouldn't have come back," he said quietly. "Maybe I never left," she replied. The wind carried their silence, thick with memories. From his satchel, Elias pulled out a faded envelope. The letter, his confession, his apology. He handed it to her with trembling hands. She unfolded it slowly, eyes scanning the words written in a time when love still lived between them. Tears fell onto the paper. "You kept this all these years?" she whispered. "It was the only thing that kept me human," he said. Clara looked at him, her eyes softening. "Maybe it's time to forgive yourself." The sea roared softly behind them, as if agreeing. That night, Elias sat alone on the pier under the moonlight. For the first time, the waves didn't sound like accusations. They sounded like peace. Days passed, and Clara returned often. They would sit on a bench near the sea, sharing silence and memories. One morning she said, "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, Elias. It means living again." He nodded. From that day, he began to live differently. He helped rebuild the old pier lamp. He fixed boats for the fishermen. He smiled at children. The boys still came every morning, always asking new questions. "Mister, do you think the sea can forgive too?" "Maybe," Elias said. "Maybe it already has." The years melted gently into one another. The town changed. The boy grew. And one golden evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Elias and Clara stood hand in hand, watching the light scatter across the waves. "Peace found me," Elias whispered. She smiled. "No," she said, "you found it." The next morning, the pier was empty. The satchel sat where he always did, beside a small wooden box tied with twine. Inside lay the old letter and a note that read, "Keep this, to remember that forgiveness is the greatest journey a soul can take." The boy found it. Years later, that boy, now a man, stood on the same pier, his own son by his side. He told him the story of the man who spent half his life running from his past, only to find peace in forgiveness. "Remember this," he said, "the past doesn't define you, it teaches you." The sea shimmered, the waves danced, and somewhere beyond the horizon, the spirit of Elias walked freely at last. The son looked out at the endless water. "Dad," he said softly, "do you think he's still out there?" His father smiled. "In a way, yes. Every time someone forgives themselves, he comes back just a little." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of salt and sunrise. The boy closed his eyes and listened. For a moment, he swore he could hear laughter in the waves, the same laughter that once belonged to a man who learned too late that love was never gone. It had only been waiting for him to come home. Sometimes the people who seem most lost are simply on their way home. And that's the truth about forgiveness. It doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. It turns guilt into wisdom, pain into strength, and silence into peace. So if you're listening to this, remember, whatever you've done, whatever you've lost, the ocean still calls your name. It's not too late to start again. Stand up, walk back to your pier, whisper your truth to the wind, forgive yourself, and when the waves touch your feet, know that you finally come home. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, where hearts heal, pasts fade, and souls find peace in the most unexpected places.